Okay, let's just dive right in. We're talking about a conflict where the final battle, the real climax, isn't just about good versus evil. It's between siblings.
Twin siblings, yeah. Jaina and Jacen Solo. And the backdrop is this huge galaxy-spanning civil war where everything is just at its absolute breaking point.
Right, and what we're looking at today isn't just a lightsaber duel. This is about the the gritty, calculated, surgical kind of war that happens in the shadows. It's fought with intelligence, with betrayal, and with some massive moral compromises.
That's the fascinating part, isn't it? The sources we're digging into, they don't just give you the glorious final fight. They detail the intricate, often really morally gray strategies. We're talking dirty tricks, cold calculations, the whole intelligence operations side of things that had to happen for that final confrontation with Darth Caedus to even be possible.
It's like the Jedi were forced to become almost as ruthless as the enemy they were fighting.
Almost, yeah. They had to walk right up to that line.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to get into those final defining chapters of the Legacy of the Force series. We're going to pull out those crucial knowledge nuggets about how military strategy crashes into intelligence gathering, the devastating effects of information warfare, and, I think most importantly, the really heavy price of personal loyalty and sacrifice.
And the stakes just couldn't be higher.
Yeah.
You have Jaina Solo, who's been given this title, Sword of the Jedi, which she really doesn't
Right,
wish.
she's so reluctant.
And she's tasked with stopping her own brother. To do that, she has to become just as cold, just as calculated as he is. And, she's had some, let's say, some ruthlessly effective tutors to get her there.
That's a good way to put it. This whole conflict is really about the collision of, personal destiny and galactic necessity. We're looking at how this seemingly unbeatable Sith Lord, Darth Caedus, was taken down. And it wasn't by some overwhelming fleet action.
No, not at all. It was by strategic finesse. It was by these profound personal sacrifices made by Jaina, by Luke, by people who were once the closest to him. We're going to trace the strategic missteps that led to his downfall and then look at the surprising political piece that came out of it. A piece that, and this is the irony, kind of mirrored his own ultimate vision for the galaxy.
Okay, so let's set the stage. The strategic battlefield. The entire endgame really pivots around this one single, almost insignificant-looking asteroid, Nickel 1.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Why is this one rock so important?
Nickel 1 is everything. It's part of the Roche system, and it's the main hub of the Verpine munitions industry. The Verpine they're just unparalleled engineers. Their systems produce this incredibly high-quality, high-tech weaponry.
And they sell it to everyone.
To everyone. They are the quintessential galactic arms dealers. So if you control Nickel 1, you basically control the pace of the war, the duration of the war, and who has the technical superiority. It's the ultimate supply cache, and Caedus absolutely had to have it to keep his fleet supplied and to solidify his hold on the Galactic Alliance.
So he needs it, and he needs it intact. Knowing its value, how did the Imperial Remnant actually go about taking it? They couldn't just, bombard it from orbit.
Exactly. You can't just blast it. That destroys the asset. So their strategy for taking it was chillingly precise. It was perfectly executed, and it focused on minimizing structural damage while maximizing speed.
A surgical strike.
Completely. They started with a classic military feint. They sent a light flotilla toward the main loading docks, which drew all the defensive fire, all the attention. Then, about half an hour later, the full planetary invasion fleet comes in from a different vector, hitting where the defenders are weakest.
But the really insidious part of this, the part that really stands out, is the weapon they used. This wasn't about kinetic warfare, was it? It wasn't about blowing things up.
Not at all. And this is the essential nugget here. They used a specialized aerosol attack. It was a chemical weapon, a highly specific aerosol that targeted and killed only the Verpine soldier caste.
Only the soldier.
Just the soldiers. The sources say it coated them in this fine gray powder, and that was it. The Verpine society is caste-based, you see. So the soldiers are the primary defense. You take them out, the whole defense collapses.
That's selectivity, though. That suggests an objective that's way more calculating than just destruction. I mean, if they wanted mass casualties, they had plenty of conventional bioweapons.
And this is critical to understanding that Sith Imperial mindset. If the goal was just to destroy, they would have just blown up the asteroid or wiped out all life. But by eliminating only the warrior caste, the immediate violent threat, the remnant, preserved the technician and the labor castes, the ones known as the Verpine owls.
So the goal was crystal clear.
Crystal clear. Quickly seize the means of production, minimize damage, and get those munitions plants back online, maybe within days, to start feeding Darth Caedus' navy with the best weapons in the galaxy. It's efficiency at its absolute darkest. It's a perfect strategic seizure of an entire supply chain.
They weren't just taking an asset. They were acquiring a fully operational, specialized supply chain with, like, minimal disruption to its actual production capacity.
Exactly.
And meanwhile, as all this is happening, as this perfectly executed attack begins, who just happens to be on Nickel 1 inspecting the defenses?
Jaina Solo and Boba Fett. Of all the people in the galaxy.
A terrible coincidence. Or maybe, the Force at work.
Could be. Jaina had actually predicted that Fett would pretend to fall for that initial feint, but when the real invasion fleet arrived, Fett's response was, well, it was immediate and characteristically aggressive. He did not waste time with tactical retreats.
No, Fett's counterpunch was just decisive.
Yeah.
Especially against that huge capital ship leading the charge.
Oh, yeah. He convinces Nickel 1's high coordinator to just throw their entire remaining starfighter force, the core of the Verpine defense, at the Remnant's flagship, the Dominion.
Which is a huge risk. That's an all-in maneuver.
A massive, high-risk, all-in move. And it pays off. The coordinated assault just tears into the Dominion and quickly turns this massive superstar destroyer into a flaming hulk. That one move eliminated the command and control center of the invasion right at the start.
Which buys them time.
It buys the Jedi vital time and inflicts this huge strategic loss on the Imperials. It completely shifted the initial momentum of the battle.
But even with Fett's quick success, the bigger problem is still there. The Remnant still has that aerosol advantage. The rest of the hives are going to fall pretty fast as the soldiers just die off. And the Coalition fleets, Admiral Dalala, Admiral Neathal, they're not coming.
No, they're completely unwilling to pull their forces away to defend an unaligned arms seller who's been profiting off all three sides of the war. To them, Nickel 1 is, a morally compromised asset. Why risk their ships for it?
So the Jedi are strategically cornered. They can't win a conventional fight defending the asteroid, but they absolutely cannot let Caedus get this massive munitions advantage.
And this is where Jaina steps in. She has the strategic clarity that she learned not just from her Jedi training, but from her mother, from Leia, and from her recent, really ruthless training with Fett. She proposes classic guerrilla tactics.
She tells them the Jedi have to stop thinking defensively.
Right. They need to start focusing on logistics.
Don't defend the prize. Attack the supply chain.
Yeah.
She realizes that trying to stop them from taking the factories is just futile at this point. Instead, she argues, let the Mandalorians and Fett handle the localized ground fighting. They have a contract to keep on the asteroid anyway.
And their own reasons for staying, sure.
The Jedi's mission, she says, must be concentrated on raiding the Imperial supply train.
It's a brilliant strategy in its simplicity because it targets the enemy's weakest, most vulnerable link. And it leverages the Jedi's natural strengths: speed, stealth, force coordination.
And the goal is just to force this immediate, really difficult choice on the Imperial remnant.
Exactly. They have to choose. Do they keep their fleet assets in the Roche system to protect their new factories from, say, a Mandalorian counterattack? Or do they deploy those ships to defend their long, vulnerable freighter convoys against the Jedi's concentrated Stealth X campaign?
And they can't do both.
They don't have the hulls. They don't have the tactical flexibility to do both missions well at the same time.
And the Stealth X fighters are just. They're perfectly suited for this kind of mission. For anyone listening who might not be familiar, the Stealth X is the Jedi's own dedicated starfighter. It's got sophisticated masking tech, advanced sensors. They are notoriously hard to track, especially when they're operating in coordinated strikes like this.
Right. So without that consistent flow of materials and resources coming in on those convoys, those brand new captured factories, no matter how pristine they are, they become strategically useless. By hitting the logistical trail, Jaina ensures that the victory at Nickel 1 becomes a strategic liability for Caedus, not an asset.
It's a textbook move. You exploit the weakness in enemy logistics, and you force the enemy into this defensive, fragmented posture.
Perfect.
Okay. This brings us to what might be the most ethically challenging part of this whole operation. Luke Skywalker's plan. It relies so heavily on calculated deception, even toward his own allies. The immediate goal is to destroy the loading docks on the Star Destroyer Harbinger to stop the flow of material.
Right. And to do this, Luke uses unescorted blast boats as a diversion. And one of those blast boats is the Millennium Falcon with Han and Leia on it.
Which is that's a highly visible but deliberately vulnerable target. He's using his own family as bait.
The maneuver requires this massive, almost unacceptable level of risk, which Luke accepts with this frightening calm. The blast boats draw the remnants' attention. They draw their interceptors, specifically the Star Hunters. But the really chilling part, the hidden agenda, is revealed in what Luke does with the Mandalorians.
He holds an unencrypted conversation with Boba Fett about the plan. He makes sure the channel is open enough for the Remnant, and specifically Caedus' intelligence people, to pick up on it.
He wanted Caedus to know. He wanted Caedus to know that Luke Skywalker and Boba Fett were working together and coming after him. That just raises the threat level exponentially. It ensures that Caedus will focus all his attention, all his resources on eliminating that specific threat combination.
Which distracts him from the stealth X fighters that are doing the real
The
work.
actual core mission, yeah.
And Fett, being the professional mercenary, he takes the bait. He and his Basilic squadron, those powerful Mandalorian starfighters, they fly in immediately to provide heavy escort cover for the blast boats, stopping them from getting blown to bits by the Star Hunters.
But Jaina, who's watching this whole chaotic scene unfold, she realizes the sickening truth of what Luke has done.
She sees the Mandalorian fighters flying too low too fast.
And then she just sees detonation after detonation erupting beneath them. They were flying straight into a deadly cluster minefield near the target that the Remnant had quietly deployed.
And Jaina puts it together.
In that instant, she realizes the awful truth. Luke had conned the Mandalorians into serving as cannon fodder. He deliberately used them to take the place of the Verpine owls he had insisted had to stay behind during the original planning. He sacrificed them.
Hang on, let's stop there. This is a betrayal of an allied force. This is Luke Skywalker, the Grand Master of the Jedi Order, knowingly allowing an allied squadron led by Boba Fett, a guy he has decades of very complicated history with, to fly into a minefield and suffer catastrophic casualties, just to make his diversion work.
That's the hard truth the source material lays out. He had foreseen it, or at the very least, he had highly suspected the presence of that minefield. The plan was meticulously designed to ensure the mission succeeded, and that required a sacrifice that he had, in Jenna's words, foreseen and accepted. Jaina's internal monologue there is just. It's a profound shock for her. She calls it an act of ruthless manipulation, and she concludes that when it came to cold calculation, Boba Fett was so far out of Luke's league that she almost felt sorry for him. Luke had achieved a level of amoral strategic mastery that even Fett couldn't match.
That is genuinely terrifying. I mean, to realize your mentor, the Grand Master, is willing to orchestrate that kind of betrayal, to accept that level of friendly fire casualties for the greater strategic goal. That's a violation of the Jedi Code that's way more profound than any tactical error.
Absolutely. And for Jaina, who had just been training with Fett to embrace ruthlessness, this is a defining moment. She now realizes she has to adopt that same cold mindset to face her brother. Fett had taught her lessons like, never let them know that you know. Luke just demonstrated the mastery of that concept on a galactic scale by sacrificing the very forces that believed they were protecting his family.
Her reaction, then, is to solidify her own path. She understands she has to be just as cold, just as calculating if she's going to survive this and stop Caedus. Luke's cold resolve, risking his friends' lives, using allies as expendable assets. It's the exact opposite of the compassionate path she'd always trained for.
But to face the ultimate embodiment of calculated darkness, she understands she has to mirror that tactical ruthlessness, but without succumbing to the spiritual corruption that comes with it. It's an impossible balance.
And that ruthless approach brings us right to the moral price of intelligence gathering, a price paid by Luke's own son, Ben Skywalker. Let's look at Luke's impossible dilemma, which is rooted entirely in his unsettling foresight. Before the whole Nickel One operation, he tells the Jedi Council something just shocking. He says, I'm not going to need support because I can't kill Caedus.
It's a devastating confession. I mean, this is coming from the most powerful living Jedi. Luke admits he's been looking forward to running Caedus down and ending him, but every single future he sees where he goes after Caedus, it ends in darkness.
And the most shocking part, the part that really underscores the tragedy of it all, is that he wins the physical fight. Every time.
Every single time in those visions, he wins the lightsaber duel. But the darkness still grows.
So his victory is completely hollow. The threat isn't just Caedus' existence, it's something else. It's the corrosive effect he's had on the galaxy, or maybe something he's left behind.
Precisely. Luke calls this lingering problem the seed that originates from Caedus. The implication is that Caedus has already corrupted the future, regardless of whether he lives or dies. So Luke is actively avoiding a fight, not because he's afraid of losing, but because he's afraid of winning and cementing an even darker future.
Which explains the next agonizing layer of his strategy.
Yeah.
He knew his son, Ben Skywalker, was going to be captured.
He knew, and he didn't intervene. He just had to swallow that horrible knowledge.
That foreknowledge, and keeping it back from Jaina and Ben, it just shows Luke's ultimate, almost terrifying commitment to the integrity of the mission.
He couldn't tell them. He says it would have changed the outcome necessary for Jaina to succeed. He swallows his own anguish, and he later tells his wife and son-in-law that he felt shame, but that Ben's capture had to be done to set the final pieces in motion.
His message to Jaina just summarizes the cost of it all. The best thing you can do for Ben is complete your mission. Get Caedus soon.
The entire future of the galaxy rests on these hidden manipulations and the sacrifice of his own son's safety.
Let's focus on Ben's mission then.
Yeah.
The one that delivered that crucial intelligence. He needed to confirm Caedus' location, so he meets an informant, Long Shavu, in Monument Plaza on Coruscant.
Monument Plaza is a genius choice for an intelligence exchange. It's this sprawling, heavily touristed square. The book calls it a seething mass of life, so vast that even the gag could not identify every being it contained.
The Galactic Alliance guard, yeah.
So it's the perfect place to avoid being seen without being obvious about it. And Shavu, who's posing as a retired Reconstruction Authority pilot, gives him the key piece of intel.
And that intel involves a pirate captain and Caedus' personal yacht.
Right. Shavu confirms that this pirate captain, 3-Eye, is causing trouble on Nickel 1 and is heading there. But crucially, Shavu reveals that the Anakin Solo Caedus' yacht, which the Jedi thought was moored above Coruscant, is just a decoy. It's a security precaution.
So 3-Eye is actually traveling in something much less conspicuous, which strongly suggests Caedus himself is on his way to Nickel 1.
It's the confirmation they need. Ben's got it.
But just as he's relaying this, Jaina tries to give him a warning through the Force, a feeling of danger. It's too late, though. He's captured by Tahiri Vela and the Gaga.
Yep. Despite Ben's attempt to protect Shavu by making his own resistance look like an attack on the informant, he gets subdued. And this leads right into the brutal interrogation sequence that's designed to break him.
He's held in a cold cell, he's manacled, and they force him to wear this Durasteel blinder helmet.
It's literally just a bucket with no viewplate. It's designed for pure sensory deprivation.
Yeah.
You get in this smoky delirium where you can't even tell if he's awake or asleep.
And the torture itself is horrifyingly technical. It's administered by this droid named XX.
A glossy black droid. The source says it uses an astonishing array of needles, probes, and electrodes to inflict this really precise, targeted pain while it just relentlessly asks for the location of the secret Jedi base. Ben figures he must be refusing to answer because the droid keeps complaining about his stubbornness.
And what's keeping him sane, ironically, is the training he got from Jacen himself.
It's the ultimate tragic irony, isn't it? The mental force block against pain that Jacen taught him before he fell is the only thing protecting Ben from being broken by Caedus' own regime.
When the droid fails, Tahiri Vela ups the ante. And for context, Tahiri was once a close friend of Jacen's. Her own fall to the dark side kind of mirrors his, which makes her part in this even more personal and twisted.
So she moves Ben to the infirmary and she threatens his captured friend, Lon Shavu.
She gives him that classic Sith line, whatever happens next, it's on you. She's externalizing all the blame, forcing this impossible choice on him. She grabs Shavu's eye and starts to push, threatening to blind him permanently.
This is the real moral test. Ben has to choose. Betray the Jedi Order or watch his friend get mutilated.
And he refuses to betray the Order, but he doesn't use the Force to fight or escape. That would just be a predictable, violent mess.
Instead, in this act of pure compassion, he directs his power solely at Shavu. He pours soothing energies and soft suggestions of unconsciousness into his friend's mind, just allowing Shavu to pass out and escape the immediate pain.
That small moment of focused compassion gives him the opening he needs. He throws his weight, tips his hover chair, and at the same time uses the Force to violently hurl Tahiri into the two confused gag guards.
And this is where the brilliance of his desperation kicks in. He doesn't just run.
No, he weaponizes their fear of their own bureaucracy.
He totally does. He's still in manacles, and he shouts at the troopers, pointing out that Tahiri is probably unconscious. And if Gag Command finds out they let a Jedi escape and didn't follow protocol, they're toast. He convinces them the only way to cover up this mess is to dispose of the bodies, Tahiri's and Shavu's, down the processing chute.
So he uses their fear of paperwork to make his escape. He gets out wearing stolen gagged armor, and he forces the troopers to dispose of the evidence, which makes his escape look like an armed resistance that killed the torturers and the informant.
And he makes sure Shevu's sacrifice counts. He prioritizes escaping and getting the intelligence out over going back for Shevu right then.
And he gets that intelligence out fast.
Super fast. He uses a borrowed comlink and sends a rapid 5-millisecond burst transmission. It's way too quick for gag droids to trace.
Well,
He reports that Caedus is definitely at Nickel 1 and that Shevu was captured. The information gathering part of the mission is done, but the price paid for it opens up this new, terrible vulnerability.
and that vulnerability gets weaponized against the entire Jedi Order almost immediately. The final betrayal comes not from an Imperial, but from a trusted, powerful ally. Tenel Ka, the Queen Mother of Apes. She shows up at the secret Jedi base on Chidumad with her fleet.
And she delivers this horrifying news. Her father, Prince Isolde, had been captured and forced to reveal the base's location. Caedus' assault fleet is already on its way.
The immediate question for Jaina and the Council is how? How did Caedus find the base so fast they'd taken every precaution, hiding in the mists of Chidumad, making the location basically untraceable through normal means?
And the answer, Jaina realizes, is sickeningly personal. The Night Sister blood trail.
This is a deep cut into dark side lore, right? When Jaina fought Caedus at Nickel 1, she wounded him badly. She sliced off his arm and his blood splattered all over her robes and her neck.
And Jaina realizes that Caedus, who's a master of these dark side techniques, had maintained a force bond to that blood. Specifically, the fragments of it that landed on her. She calls it the Night Sister blood trail. It's this rare, almost legendary technique that allowed him to track her across the galaxy, and by tracking her, find the secret base.
This clarifies why Caedus seemed to hesitate during their first duel. He wasn't trying to kill her then.
He needed her alive. He needed her to lead him right to the Jedi. The source notes that this cold calculation, using his own gruesome injury, his severed arm, his own blood as a long-range tracking device, that scared Jaina even more than seeing him stand up after losing the limb.
It confirms that the last bits of Jacen Solo were just gone, replaced by a ruthless strategist who could use his own pain as a weapon against his family.
The stage is set.
The galaxy is closing in. But as we get to the endgame, Caedus' own empire starts to rot from the inside. While he's preoccupied with the war and the Jedi, the Imperial Moffs Lesserson, Bao, the others, they start running their own deeply treasonous schemes, and they're focused on the ultimate backstabbing weapon, biological warfare.
These Moffs, they sense weakness, they doubt Caedus' commitment to the war machine, so they decide to launch their own side project. They develop these assassin strains of a nano-killer.
And the first target is Boba Fett.
For revenge for what he did at Nickel 1, yeah. They used tissue samples from his granddaughter, Murtagev, who was captured during that fighting.
We need to understand the technical horror of this weapon. It's not just a quick poison.
No, it's a long-term, sophisticated, and horrifying revenge. The nano-killer strain, engineered using Murtagev's unique DNA, was deployed through air dispersion over Mandalore. It ensures a huge target pool. And the source material really emphasizes its resilience. The nano-killer is designed to last forever as long as it absorbs just a tiny bit of light every few days.
So it's basically a persistent biological agent that targets an entire family line.
For good. The Moffs are so proud of their sophisticated revenge. They think they've eliminated Fett and his entire influence permanently.
But their next plot, it hits too close to home for Caedus. And this is where his ultimate necessary redemption arc begins. They plan to use Prince Isolde's captured blood to develop a new nano-killer strain, one targeted specifically at Hapian royalty.
And that, of course, includes Tenel Ka and, unbeknownst to the Moff Caedus' own daughter, Alana, who's on the Dragon Queen. This unforeseen consequence is the trigger for Caedus' ultimate conflicted moment of choice.
He realizes that his vision of the White Throne, the whole point of his reign, the peace he's fighting for, it requires Alana's life to be preserved. Without her, there is no White Throne, and his entire fall to the dark side becomes pointless.
He decides he has to save her. He even notes that the Sith way of pain doesn't require him to become a monster worse than Palpatine.
So, in a moment of what seems like a genuine attempt at redemption, he goes to release Prince Isolde. He's intending to get him off the Anakin Solo to keep him safe.
But Isolde, looking at the man who has just destroyed his family and his nation, is consumed by total distress.
He thinks it's a trick. He believes Caedus is trying to get him to inadvertently carry the nano-killer payload onto the Dragon Queen himself. So, in defiance, Isolde spits in Caedus' eye.
Yeah.
He refuses to be part of the ploy. even if it could save his life.
Which puts Caedus in this immediate, impossible bind. He needs to release Isolder, but Isolder's refusal means he's going to stay put, which makes him a continued source of genetic material for the Moffs. Caedus realizes he has to stop them from getting any more samples.
He sighs and says death is certainly an option.
And he just grasps Isolder in the Force and instantly snaps his neck.
Which is the definition of a paradoxical good. He kills his father-in-law instantly, not out of malice, but to prevent the Moffs from weaponizing his DNA. He then rushes the body to the fusion incinerator, even forcing the medical droid to incinerate it immediately against all prison procedure. This cold act of violence is paradoxically an act of good. It's a sacrifice to save his daughter.
But the tragedy doesn't end there. As the medical droid is preparing the body, Caedus notices something, faint needle marks and bruises on Isolder's forearms.
The betrayal is complete. The Moffs had already collected the samples.
The nanokiller targeting the Hapen royalty is already in motion. Caedus realizes they got the tissue samples before he intervened. He suspects a remnant missile boat carrying the payload has already launched toward the Dragon Queen.
So he immediately orders all launches from the Anakin Solo halted.
And he realizes he has to deal with this threat personally. He focuses his entire being on trying to warn Tenel Ka. And this distraction, this final flicker of the Jacen Solo he used to be, is what makes him vulnerable.
Which sets the stage for the final duel aboard the Anakin Solo. Jaina and Zek launch their attack, using these Jedi-guided shadow bombs to blast 4 decks deep into the hull. But the battle claims a casualty before Jaina even gets to her brother.
Zek is lost in the chaos. Jaina notes he was just gone. Vaporized, crushed. She didn't even feel him die in the Force. He just vanished. Jaina has to press on. She boards the ship and finds Caedus already weakened, mentally diverted by the nano-killer threat, and his desperate attempt to use battle meditation to see through the fleet's sensors and find that missile boat.
Jaina already had a huge advantage, though. A piece of knowledge she gained from their last fight at Nickel 1. She realized her brother had a lost Force power, one of those legendary skills in the Jedi archives.
Yes, the rare and lost art of Shatterpoint. The technique famously associated with Master Mace Windu. The ability to perceive points of weakness or shatter points in materials, in tactics, even in a person's spirit.
And she'd seen Caedus use it during their previous fight to destroy Merdegev's incredibly tough Basargam armor with just a tap.
And this is where Luke's strategic mentorship pays off, even after all his manipulations. During her recovery, Luke had taught her the technique. He countered her belief that it was a lost art by saying an art was not lost just because it could be wielded only by a handful.
So Jaina now has the theoretical ability to exploit the weakness in her brother, both physically and maybe spiritually, to find his own shatter point.
But the technical skill isn't the deciding factor here. It's her emotional control. Caedus expected her to fight him with Sith power. He was waiting for her to use anger, pain, vengeance. He anticipated her falling to the dark side to get the strength she needed to beat him.
And Jaina refuses to go down that path.
She chooses a different kind of strength. She refuses to draw power from anger or pain. She rejects the very essence of the dark side that her brother fell for. Instead, she opens herself fully to the Force, and she draws strength from the purified emotional energy of her love of what her brother had been.
The teenage jokester, the reluctant champion, the Jacen Solo she remembered.
This is the critical moral divergence. Jaina proves that being the sword of the Jedi doesn't require you to shed your compassion. She strikes with the lightsaber fueled by this purified emotional energy, and she kills Caedus. And the final psychological detail is so striking. When the blade reaches his heart, Jaina reports feeling nothing at all.
Not triumph, not anger, not even sadness.
Just the completion of a terrible duty. It signifies the absolute cold resolve she had to cultivate to do it.
But the source material gives us this ultimate gut punch that reinforces the tragedy, proving that Jacen Solo wasn't completely erased by Darth Caedus.
Absolutely. Jonah later recalls that in his last fragmented moment of focus, Caedus stopped fighting her. He used his dying strength, his final breath, to transmit a warning to Tenel Ka about the nano-killer attack.
Wow.
It confirms that a fragment of Jacen remained. He chose to save his daughter and the Happen fleet over fighting his twin to ensure his own survival. The Sith Lord was defeated, but the man redeemed himself in his final milliseconds of life.
The war is over. But the fallout is immediate, and it's messy. Particularly for the people who paid the price for Luke and Jaina's strategic manipulations. Jaina has to deliver some hard truths, including confirming to Boba Fett that his granddaughter, Merdegev, was the first of his team to fall at Nickel 1.
But Myrna actually survived. She was paralyzed and captured, but she's later rescued. And the emotional cost of this whole mercenary alliance is just laid bare. She's consumed by anger. She views Fett's decision to use the Jedi to bait Caedus as a costly personal vendetta.
And she tells Jaina to tell Fett he deserves the nano killer.
She does. She says he deserves it because he knowingly sent her and her team on a death mission against impossible odds. This just confirms Jaina's earlier realization that Fett had been playing this extremely high-stakes, ruthless game that cost his own family dearly.
Meanwhile, the biggest chess move is happening on the political board, orchestrated by Luke Skywalker in the immediate aftermath of Caedus' death.
He leverages the Moff's absolute terror and desperation after their nano-killer plot is revealed. They have a clear choice. Face war crimes trials for trying to assassinate Hapan royalty and for deploying the Mandalore nano-killer. Or join the new Galactic Alliance under a leader chosen by the Jedi.
This is Luke's pragmatic genius in full display. He doesn't just destroy the Imperial remnant, he co-opts it. He offers surviving Moffs a path back to legitimacy. And he places Jagged Fell in charge of the entire faction.
Jagged Fell, the son of the legendary Imperial ace Soontir Fell, and a leader with deep credibility inside the Remnant.
And this choice is brilliant for so many reasons. Jagged Fell had kept his distance from Caedus' extremism, and he had personal ties to the Solos, specifically through his past relationship with Jaina. Luke ensures that the remaining Imperial fleets will stay in line under a credible, principled leader who is now committed to the Alliance.
And those vital fleet resources, the backbone of the Remnant's power, are immediately transferred over to the Alliance. This massive boost in military strength is crucial because it gives them the power they need to force the remaining separatist faction, the Confederation, to the bargaining table.
The Moffs realize that with the remnant fleets now part of the Alliance, the game is up.
Yeah.
They have overwhelming force against them, so they submit.
They even agree to Han Solo's demand to fund a massive philanthropic mission to atone for what they did with the nano-killers.
So who leads this new United Galactic Alliance? Not one of the heroes we'd expect. It's someone utterly pragmatic, politically savvy, and very controversial. Admiral Natasi Dalla.
Dalla is appointed the new chief of state. She was recommended by Admiral Buwatu, the previous acting chief, who basically admitted he wasn't cunning enough to navigate the political currents of this new unified galaxy. Dalla's appointment is a huge symbolic and structural shift. She's seen as the only universally acceptable choice because she can bridge the old Imperial hardliners and the new Alliance loyalists.
And she immediately promises a future where space navies serve society, not just defend it, and where the galaxy won't need the volatile, disruptive power of the Jedi to sort out its differences and mete out justice.
And this is the profound, unsettling connection back to Darth Caedus' original goal. Dalla's alliance represents exactly what Jacen Solo fought for. A single, strong government enforced by a central military that could enforce peace and order without relying on the unpredictable power of Force users. Jaina even notes with a cold shudder that Jacen had, in a way, achieved his goal through his own death.
And finally, we have to talk about the most vulnerable legacy of this whole conflict. Alana, Jacen's daughter, who was on the Dragon Queen during that nano-killer attempt.
To protect her from anyone who might seek revenge against Caedus' bloodline, be it surviving Moffs, old Sith loyalists, or maybe even mercenary families like the Fett's Tenelka and the Solos have to hide her. She's introduced to the world as an orphan named Amelia.
And she's going to be raised by Han and Leia at the Jedi Academy. The cover story ensures her immediate safety and allows her to remain within the Jedi sphere, since she's so strongly Force-sensitive. It's the final, quiet act of the Solos protecting the future, even a future inherited from the dark side. They've saved the galaxy, but now they have to raise the child of the darkness that almost consumed them all.
You know, we started this deep dive talking about cold strategic maneuvers, the aerosol weapon, the supply train attacks, Luke's ruthless manipulation of the Mandalorians. And we end on this really profound question of personal sacrifice and political outcomes.
The inherent tragedy of Caedus' fall is what's left. He sacrificed everything, his name, his reputation, his moral compass, his life, because he believed only the total control and total suffering could unite the galaxy. His Sith logic dictated that pain and love were necessary to maintain strength and focus.
But Jaina chose a different path. She drew strength from her love for what Jacen used to be. She maintained her connection to the light while embracing the necessary ruthlessness of the mission. She fulfilled the role of the Sword of the Jedi. She severed the darkness, but she made sure her own soul remained intact, even if the act itself left her feeling emotionally numb.
And here's the paradox, the unsettling conclusion to this whole era. Darth Caedus achieved his ultimate stated goal. He wanted a united galaxy under a single strong government that could finally end the endless wars. And he got it. He got Admiral Diala's alliance, ruling over a seemingly unified galaxy, a situation brought about directly by the events he set in motion and by his own death.
The victory of the Jedi secured the peace, but that peace was immediately handed over to a pragmatist who promised a galaxy where the Jedi were no longer necessary. They essentially sidelined the very order that saved the galaxy. So this raises a really important question for you, the listener. If Caedus's end goal was a united, peaceful government, and his actions directly resulted in that government being formed, was the cost he paid, including the loss of his moral compass and his life, a victory or a failure? What does it truly take to be the sword of the Jedi? Is it just the skill to kill, or is it the will to choose a different kind of strength, even if that means embracing cold, hard calculation along the way? That's the shadow that lingers long after the credits roll.